With the Golden State Warriors season now over, the franchise can focus all their attention on their future. Even though this team finished with the worst record in the NBA, this is clearly not a team rebuilding, but retooling, considering it was a result of injuries to the Dubs' core guys. The Warriors are in position to go from worst team in the NBA to championship contenders within just one season. In this video, we will break down the Golden State Warriors' realistic outlook over the course of the next 2 seasons. We will discuss the key pieces they currently have on their team, the Warriors' main assets they have to play with to ensure long-term success in prolonging the title window, and the ways they can go about utilizing those assets to achieve that prolonged success. But before we jump into it, if you enjoyed this video, subscribe and hit that like button, which will help me continue to create content for y'all. The Golden State Warriors are primed for an immediate improvement simply by getting their core of Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green back fully healthy after a long break. They obviously have a winning track record as they led the Warriors to the NBA Finals 5 seasons straight when they were all healthy. The Dubs, of course, also now have Andrew Wiggins. And yes, we all know that he had a relatively disappointing start to his career considering the expectations were through the roof. But now he has a fresh start and retooled and realistic expectations with the Warriors that I believe will be better for his development. Remember guys, he's only still just 24 years old and has a lot of room to grow with the proper guidance that I believe the Warriors are qualified to give. Also, in his 12 games with the team, Wiggins has played well and at least for now is showing he intends to make the most out of his opportunity with Golden State. Another key returning piece to this team is Eric Paschall, who the Dubs selected in the second round of the 2019 NBA draft. He has very quickly developed into a very nice player for the Dubs and has already shown that he can have long-term value for this team. Paschall has averaged 14 points on nearly 50% shooting, plays very well within the team's system, and is a solid rebounder and distributor. The Warriors' core, however, isn't getting any younger. Steph Curry is now 32 years old, and both Klay Thompson and Draymond Green are now 30. They will need help keeping their title window open for years to come. Even though the Warriors won't have much cap space other than that $6 million mid-level exception, they certainly will not lack having terrific options to improve upon this team for prolonged success. Golden State has 3 main assets to play with to improve this team. The first 2 assets are this year's top 5 guaranteed draft pick that they will receive as a result of finishing with the league's worst record, and they have the Minnesota Timberwolves 2021 first-round draft pick, which is protected only 1 through 3, that they received alongside Andrew Wiggins in exchange for D'Angelo Russell. That Wolves pick is a huge asset. Even though Minnesota has added some scoring firepower and made Karl Anthony Towns happy by adding his good friend Russell, that team is primed to be one of the worst defensive teams in the NBA. That pick will likely land somewhere in the top 10 in a deeper draft class. The Warriors' third main asset to play with is a $17.2 million trade exception they got from the Memphis Grizzlies in exchange for Andre Iguodala that they can use to add some firepower to this team by being able to acquire a player in a trade of equal or lesser value of that trade exception without having to send anything back in return. And just something to note about that trade exception. The Warriors can't add another player's salary to that trade exception to go after a player whose salary is higher than that trade exception's $17.2 million amount. The Dubs can only add a draft pick as a sweetener since it doesn't have a salary yet. The NBA draft is on October 16th. Free agency is only 2 days later on October 18th, and this trade exception expires October 24th, so they will have to use it before that date. This short stretch in October will in many ways decide how well this Warriors team will be positioned for prolonged future success. Now, the Warriors can always decide they don't want to trade those high-value picks, especially if this year's pick ends up being a top 2 pick in the draft lottery on the 20th of August, and they feel that they can get a future star with that pick, or if they just can't get a player that they seek in a trade in return. Bob Myers can just draft young prospects with those picks and have them join their seasoned core and simply use that $17.2 million trade exception on a valuable vet that will bolster the Warriors' depth and help the team right away. A player like Thaddeus Young, for example, who just last season signed a 3-year, $43.6 million contract with the Bulls. Despite his talent, he hasn't been a great fit with the Bulls, and they may welcome getting that contract off their books. Young will likely be a good fit with the Warriors' small ball offense, and he can play both forward spots and is a solid 2-way player. Another player and even better option that fits that bill is Danilo Gallinari. He is a free agent this summer and will be looking for a new contract roughly in that $17 million per year range. Gallinari is unlikely going to be in Oklahoma City Thunder's long-term plans, and the Warriors can simply use that trade exception and, let's say, their own 2021 first-round pick, which Bob Myers can add some protections to incentivize the Thunder to work out a sign-and-trade deal. This may very well be worth it for the Warriors, as that specific pick will likely fall somewhere in the 20s, considering Golden State will likely regain their contending status next season. This will also benefit the Thunder as they get yet another first-round draft pick to add to their treasure chest of picks in exchange for a player they would be at risk of losing for nothing. And Gallinari gets paid and joins a contending team with good culture. Danilo Gallinari would be super valuable to the Warriors as he is a borderline all-star in this league when healthy, and is a large, switchable forward with elite shooting who will fit perfectly in the Warriors system, and give them depth and another offensive weapon to deploy as he is good for 18 to 20 points on any given night. He would most definitely help maximize the Dubs' core players' remaining prime years. I believe this is a realistic option for the Golden State Warriors to consider. Another option I think the Golden State Warriors should go for is to swing for the fences by calling up, say, the Indiana Pacers in an attempt to pry away Domantas Sabonis, whose salary perfectly matches that trade exception's dollar amount. It will take a lot to persuade them to give up on Sabonis, but the Pacers almost always avoid the luxury tax like the plague and will soon have to pay Victor Oladipo. Sabonis and Miles Turner are also not a clean fit together, and even though the Pacers prefer Sabonis over Turner, a Godfather offer might persuade the Pacers to give up on Sabonis. The Warriors can offer up the trade exception along with this year's guaranteed top 5 draft pick and the Timberwolves 2021 lightly protected pick. Bob Myers can even throw in some second-round picks for good measure. Now, I know it's a lot to give up in a trade, but I believe it is 100% worth it for the Warriors, and that is what it will take to persuade the Pacers to even start strongly considering forking over the 24-year-old All-Star. If the Warriors offer this up, they will have at least a chance at adding one of the best big men in the NBA. Sabonis averaged 18.5 points, 12.4 rebounds, and 5 assists per game this season, while earning his first All-Star selection this year. This is only just the beginning for Sabonis, considering he hasn't even entered his prime yet, as he just turned 24 years old. I believe he will be a perennial All-Star and top 30 player in this league on a consistent basis up until the end of his prime. The Warriors would be lucky to draft a guy like that with either of the 2 picks that they would be giving away to the Pacers. Domantas Sabonis will instantly, in my opinion, make the Warriors not just contenders, but favorites for years to come. This trade will simultaneously maximize the Warriors' core of Curry, Thompson, and Green's prime years, and add years to their title window as Sabonis is still a very young player. I can actually envision the offense eventually going through Sabonis, as he will be the team's best passer, which will unlock loads of opportunities for the entire team. I mean, take a look at this potential roster and tell me you wouldn't consider them favorites year in and year out. This will form a new Big Four in Golden State with a strong bench to support it, and will strike fear in every opponent they face, as this team will be an offensive juggernaut. Now, if this attempt to pry away Sabonis doesn't work for the Warriors, they can shift their focus instead on Pacers' other big man, Miles Turner, or Orlando Magic forward Aaron Gordon. These are both gettable young players who make slightly more than a $17.2 million trade exception. And as we touched on earlier, you can't add on a player's salary to that trade exception to go for a player who earns more than that trade exception's $17.2 million figure. But there is a solution to that problem, and that is what's called the bridge solution, which is when you add on a player like Thaddeus Young straight up for that trade exception, and then immediately flip him for a player like Turner or Gordon, who are earning a bit more using other salaries to match if necessary. Miles Turner would be an amazing fit with the Warriors, as he is an effective stretch 5 who can run the floor and is a very good shot blocker who, by the way, led the league in blocks in 2019, and is still just 24 years old. And Aaron Gordon, who at 25 years of age is a versatile two-way forward who can guard multiple positions, is super athletic, can handle the ball, and has developed the ability to create for others effectively as well. The defensive switchability of Gordon, Thompson, Green, and Wiggins has potential to be a new death lineup. Neither Turner or Gordon are great fits on their respective rosters, and both the Magic and Pacers may want to shed some salary as well. But they would only of course do this if they could get some good value in return. Shedding a bit of salary by flipping them for a productive, though older and not quite as good a player like Thaddeus Young won't be enough. They may need to include this year's top 5 pick. The Pacers or the Magic can also include their own pick, which will likely be in the high teens, just to make the trade a bit more balanced. This may very well be worth it for the Warriors, as this year's draft isn't slated to be very deep, and doesn't have any surefire prospects at the top of the draft either. Also, this trade will maximize the final years of Curry, Thompson, and Green's prime years, considering Turner and Gordon are ready to contribute right away, and have already proven themselves to be at the very least high-end role players. This move will also add years to Golden State's title window, considering both those guys are still young with potential to improve, given that they still haven't even entered their primes yet. Even if giving up on this year's draft pick would be a hard pill to swallow, they will still get solid return and will still be able to pick up a talented young prospect with a lightly protected Minnesota pick in a 2021 draft class that promises to be deeper than the 2020 class. But look, if Bob Myers decides that giving up on this year's pick is too high a price to pay for Turner or Gordon, especially if he feels super confident in a particular draft prospect in this year's draft, then the Warriors can simply draft Bob Myers' guy, use that trade exception on someone like Danilo Gallinari, and simply carry on as contenders in the 2020-21 season and reassess their situation the following summer regarding their options for that Minnesota pick. They will be able to add another high-end young prospect in a deeper draft class, or trade for another high-quality proven NBA player to add even more firepower to a contending Warriors team. The Golden State Warriors have the assets they need and a multitude of options to maximize their aging Big Three while simultaneously prolonging the Warriors' window as championship contenders by utilizing those picks to get younger by selecting talented prospects or by trading for proven young players only now entering their prime. If Bob Myers can utilize those main assets properly, I can realistically see them contending for another 5 years. The future is very bright for this team. What do you guys think? How do you feel about the Warriors' future? What are your thoughts on how best to use the Warriors' assets not only to maximize the present, but also to ensure prolonged success? Let me know in the comments section. And once again, if you enjoyed this video, subscribe and hit that like button. Thanks so much for watching. Till the next one, guys, I'm out.